Jumpin' In on Manx Radio.
With Howard and Chris Kane.
Hello.
Good evening.
And welcome. And here we go again, Saturday night, 9 o'clock. It is Jumpin' In, the best in modern contemporary jazz, and a bit of a special for you this evening, but we are the same as ever, myself, H.
And me, Chris. Yes, welcome along to this week's Jumpin' In. And yes, it's another of our ad hoc series of specials. But all our shows special, I hear you cry. Well, I don't like to blow my own trumpet, but there are plenty out there who can in this trumpet special dedicated to blowy bent metal stuff. So where do you start? There are so many brilliant and influential players, you could dedicate a show just to them. And indeed, that's a good idea. We might have some master decisions to pick up the people who influenced all those fantastic instrumental bands later on. But without further ado, who's been raising the wind and giving you the horn this week, H?
Yes, where do you start indeed? Heading live in Paris with Jeremy Pelt, Noir et Rouge. There's an Angel song from, yes, definitely one of the masters, and one of the new young masters with Dinosaur.
And from me, well, Equality, Night, me, obviously, and isn't there always one? And in this case, it's Yurtsi Malik, Black Sheep. Wonderful stuff indeed. Black Sheep, the title track from Yurtsi Malik's latest outing, which came out late last year and is 8th as a leader. With 20 years of recording and touring under his belt, Malik has been favourably compared to Tomasz Stanko, the godfather of Polish jazz, but he's very much his own man. Although staying in the mainstream, this sort of post-bop album sounds thoroughly modern to me and was one of my favourite releases of last year. The band's a quintet, which is a format Malik favours on a number of his recordings. Radek Nowicki on tenor, Pietro Weitzel and Aga Derlich share the piano duties. Max Mucha, great name, Max Mucha, relation to Minnie, no doubt, on the bass. Sebastian Frankiewicz at the drums, and of course Yurtsi Malik on trumpet and flugelhorn.
Classic stuff, yeah. It was a really fine album, that fine player as well, and yes, great name. I do love some of these names, but yes, one to look out for, I think, Yurtsi Malik in the future as well. I'm sure he's got plenty more years in him and some really good stuff coming out of him. This man, sadly, no longer with us and could certainly fit into, even when we do a Trumpet Masters as well, influenced so many people at the more modern end of the spectrum as well. Kenny Wheeler, the master, fantastic on trumpet and flugelhorn, a brilliant composer as well as a player with a real beautiful lyrical fragility of tone. Never better displayed perhaps than in a classic album, which I know Manfred Eicher at the time said he thought it was one of the best albums ECM had ever produced, Angel's Song, with Lee Konitz, sadly also just departed last year, on alto, Dave Holland bass and Bill Frisell electric guitar. And let's hear the title song. beautiful stuff. I haven't heard it for a while. Remind me how good it was. 1997. I remember reading about that coming out, and Manfred Eicher saying really excited about this album. I think it's one of the best I've ever done. Whether he's changed his view since then over the last 20 years or so, I don't know. But either way, it remains a cracking album, albeit sadly only two of the players still with us. So clearly Dave Holland's still going strong, and Bill Frisell equally so. Lee left us, I think, actually was a COVID, I seem to recall.
He was.
He was a good age, he was well into his 90s, but would have still been with us, yeah. Had it not been for COVID complications, unfortunately. And Kenny passed away a year or two back. But Angel song, wonderful stuff. The great Kenny Willett.
And a bit of a theme that'll continue through the show, certainly from my end, no doubt. Recorded in Paris this March, just at the beginning of the lockdown. French-Canadian trumpeter and flugel player Rachel Terrien was a new find for me, although Wiener, the name of the album, is in fact her fifth album, and she's won countless awards. Let's hear Parity. Funny, after what we just heard, I can never listen to the Flugel without thinking of the great Kenny, and there's no doubt that Rachel's musical education in Montreal, and indeed her compositional style, influenced by the great man, both in writing and playing. The European Quartet consists of Daniel Gassin on piano, Dario Guibert on bass, and Mariek Vining on drums, with Irving Akeo guesting on a couple of tracks, and of course Rachel on trumpet and flugelhorn. The album's called Vena, and certainly well worth a listen.
Certainly is, yeah, a fine player as well again, as is this man, Jeremy Pelt. Lord knows how many albums he's got out. He's still a fairly young man in the scale of things, not as young as Rachel, I don't think, but has been around for a number of years. Prodigious recorder. He's always bringing stuff out, and again, quite often a different sort of take on some of the different albums as he goes along. We've often said on this programme before, pick up any Jeremy Pelt album, and I've yet to be disappointed, so I think you'd be yet to be disappointed as well. They're always interesting. The playing is always of a very high standard, always highly imaginative. None more so than Back to Paris, actually, or staying in Paris, I suppose. Live in Paris, Noir et Rouge on High Note a couple of years ago. Reinvention. Great stuff. Reinvention from Jeremy Pelt's album from 2017, just called Live in Paris, Noir et Rouge. Jeremy on trumpet, of course, Victor Gould piano, Vincent Archer on bass, the wonderful young Jonathan Barber on drums, and Jacqueline Acevedo on quite a nice effective percussion there, driving things along as well. And that was recorded at the, what sounds like a fine place, the Sunside Jazz Club in Paris, recorded September 2017. Like I said, pick up any Jeremy Pelt album, it's good.
And speaking of picking up Jeremy Pelt albums, that one we both picked up when it came on the listening post in Ray's Jazz in London. I wouldn't like to count how many of our record collections both have been acquired in that way. Now, you can never start too young, as you might say, and that's certainly true of James Copus, one of the most exciting young trumpeters on the London scene, who completed a junior jazz course at the Royal Academy aged 8 before going on to study there and get his first class honours. Just 25 years old now and been on the road for 2 to 3 years. Let's hear a track from his debut album, Dusk. Here's Early Hours.
You listen program Jumping In with Chris and HK. And my name is Thomas Steinko. Thank you very much.
Terrific stuff there, yes. Dinosaur Laura Jurd, one of the most exciting and imaginative young trumpeters on the London scene at the moment, and no doubt going further afield. I hope she stays in Britain. A wonderful thing. We spoke to her many years ago, actually, at the London Jazz Festival, and she's gone on to great guns since then. That's their latest, Dinosaur to the Earth, and that's called Absinthe, that one, I believe.
Yes, in fact, we spoke with her before that, some years earlier at Southport, when she was just starting out after being a BBC Young Musician, Jazz Musician of the Year. And prior to that, James Copus with Early Hours from his recent debut album, Dusk, kindly sent through to us by Ubuntu Music. And, gosh, my word, 25, just had his 26th birthday, so I apologise to him. But who hasn't he played with? He's played with Dave Holland, Joe Locke, Tim Garland, Stan Sulzman, Gareth Crane. He's also played as a session man with Ollie Murs, Pixie Lott, Gregory Porter, the Basement Jacks, the River Dance Company. He's worked with the London Concert Orchestra, the English Session Orchestra, the Manchester Camerata, BBC Big Band, Guy Barker, etc., etc. And he cites Kenny Wheeler as a major influence, and was lucky enough to have the great man listen to his playing and complimented as having one of the best flugel sounds Kenny says he'd ever heard. New Yorker Jason Brown drives the album along from behind the kit, with Londoners Tom Corley on piano and keys and Connor Chaplin on bass, with James, of course, on the trumpet.
Very fine. Now, with a little bit of luck, we'll squeeze a bit of this in. I promised you another master. Came out again. A release. The Lost Septet. going back a few years. If I quote and someone says, "Your new music, man, I just can't get into it." To which Mars replies, "Should I wait for you?" Europe tour of Miles Davis with Gary Bartz, Keith Jarrett on electric piano, Michael Henderson, Dougal Leon Chauncier drums, Charles or Don Elias on percussion, as was Ntume Foreman as well. Yes, never actually recorded, but just this year, a couple of CDs brought out from a radio shot.
Fantastic stuff. We hope you've enjoyed this blowout trumpet special. It certainly won't be the last. And I don't know if it's the cold weather or something in the water, but the Scandinavian countries have also produced more than their fair share of jazz talent. And trumpeter Verneri Pohjola, son of Finnish bass legend Pekka Pohjola, is no exception. His 7th release and 4th on edition is The Dead Don't Dream, which could be one of the releases of the year. Tumo Prattler on piano electronics, Mika Kello on drums and gongs, Antti Lutinen on bass, and of course Verneri on trumpet. We'll leave you with Wilder Brother. Me, obviously.
Obviously.